Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a massive, often completely invisible force that drives the entire processed foods industry, and that is energy management. When we usually think about sustainability in food, our minds naturally go straight to things like farming practices, water usage, or maybe packaging waste. But in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden costs and the literally staggering, unseen energy demands required just to keep this massive industry running day in and day out.
So let's kick things off with a simple question, just to frame our thinking here. How much energy does it actually take to make a frozen pizza? As a consumer, you're probably just thinking about the, 15 minutes it spends in your oven at home? But I want you to think bigger. Think about the massive, unseen industrial energy required before that favorite food of yours even reaches the grocery store shelf. You've got the energy to bake the crust, the flash freezing process to preserve it, the raw power to run the factory line that puts it in the box. It is a staggering amount of power, and it happens entirely out of sight for the everyday consumer.
All right, let's get into Section 1, the energy in processed foods.
Understanding exactly where all this power actually goes is the absolute foundation of energy management. According to the SASB industry standards, energy is primarily needed to operate large manufacturing facilities across three main areas. Those are cooking, refrigeration, and packaging. Imagine your home kitchen, but scaled up to the size of several football fields. You've got industrial ovens and fryers running nonstop, massive walk-in freezers maintaining precise sub-zero temperatures around the clock, and incredibly complex, high-speed, automated packaging lines. The sheer industrial scale of these three specific energy hogs creates a massive energy load that companies have to carefully monitor and manage every single day.
Moving right along to Section 2, risks of energy consumption. Now, the processed foods industry relies incredibly heavily on fossil fuels, specifically consuming just massive amounts of natural gas. And because of this heavy reliance, these companies are directly exposed to highly volatile fossil fuel energy markets. Think about it. When global energy prices spike, whether that's due to geopolitical events or supply chain disruptions, the cost to cook, freeze, and package that frozen pizza absolutely skyrockets. This makes energy efficiency not just a nice-to-have feel-good environmental goal, but a vital, foundational business strategy. They have to mitigate their financial exposure to these rapidly shifting, unpredictable costs. So, to understand how companies systematically manage and report these exact risks, we turn to the SASB standards, which are now part of the IFRS Foundation. The SASB standards basically provide the authoritative, industry-specific framework for sustainability-related financial disclosures. They give companies and investors an objective way to track and manage these exact financial and operational risks. It ensures everyone is speaking the exact same language when it comes to sustainability accounting. Essentially, it takes all the guesswork out of the equation. And the standard is actually very clear about the broader impacts. It states, and I'll quote it directly here, energy production and consumption contributes to significant environmental impacts, including climate change and pollution, which have the potential, indirectly, yet materially, to affect processed food entity operations. It's outlining an objective reality here, right? Energy efficiency directly limits an entity's contribution to greenhouse gas emissions. Ultimately, businesses face a dual risk. You have the immediate, acute financial cost of the energy itself, and in the broader, long-term environmental impacts of producing it. Which brings us to Section 3, tracking total energy use. Okay, let's get into the weeds a bit. The core of the SASB disclosure for energy management falls under metric code FBPF 130A.1. Under this specific code, companies have to report three incredibly revealing data points. 1, the total energy consumed. 2, the percentage of that energy that comes from grid electricity. And 3, the percentage that comes from renewable energy. These three pillars give investors a crystal clear picture of the company's energy profile. Let's look a little closer at that first component. When the standard asks for total energy consumed, it means the absolute aggregate amount. This encompasses literally everything a facility uses to run its operations during the entire reporting period. We're talking direct fuel usage, purchased electricity, heating, cooling, and steam. Crucially, it includes both energy purchased from external sources and energy the entity produces itself on site. There is simply nowhere to hide the energy bill. The whole shebang gets rolled into this one aggregate figure, giving a perfectly transparent view of the company's total draw. To make sure investors can accurately compare one company to another without any confusion, the standard requires very strict standardized units. All of this total energy must be reported in gigajoules. Furthermore, when calculating energy consumption from fuels and biofuels, companies have to use higher heating values, or HHV, which is also known as gross calorific values.
Using HHV ensures that the energy content of the fuel is measured optimally, preventing any clever accounting discrepancies based on things like fuel moisture. These values are measured directly or taken from authoritative sources like the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. This level of standardized math ensures pure accuracy and comparability across the entire global industry.
All right, moving to our final part, Section 4, Grid versus Renewable Energy. Decisions around exactly where a company gets its power are absolutely critical. On one side, you have standard purchased grid electricity. This is external power, and as we discussed earlier, relying heavily on it leaves a company subjected to market price volatility, not to mention potential reliability issues if the grid is under strain. But on the other side, you have renewable energy. Whether it's self-generated on-site with something like solar panels or explicitly purchased as green power, diversifying into alternative fuels and renewables can heavily influence and improve both the long-term predictable costs and the fundamental reliability of a facility's energy supply. But here's the catch. Companies cannot just make vague, feel-good claims about being green. The SASB standards outline incredibly rigorous criteria that companies have to meet to officially claim energy as renewable. First up, it must come from sources that replenish faster than they deplete, so geothermal, wind, solar, hydro, or biomass. Second, and this is a big one to prevent any double counting of green energy in the market, companies must explicitly include and retire renewable energy certificates, known as RECs, or guarantees of origin, known as GOs. You can't just sell your certificates to someone else and still claim you use the green power yourself. Third, companies are explicitly excluded from taking credit for the standard renewable portion of their local energy grid mix. And finally, if they are using biomass, it is strictly limited to materials certified to a third-party standard. It is a very high bar, intentionally designed to ensure total transparency and genuine sustainability. So what you should really take away from this explainer is that energy management isn't just some boring back-office utility issue. It's a massive financial and environmental driver for the food sitting on our shelves. Which leaves me with one final thought for you to ponder today. As global energy markets continue to fluctuate and the push for real, verified renewable energy intensifies, how might energy volatility impact the future cost and availability of your favorite snack foods? Next time you grab that frozen pizza, take a second to think about the gigajoules behind it. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep learning.